Hi, I'm Ken Forkish. I wanted to introduce a concept in my second bread cookbook that's new and different from flour, water, salt, yeast. And I'd like to explain what it's all about. I call it the secret sauce. And all of the recipes in this book, whether they're for pan breads or Dutch oven breads, actually as an aside, each of the recipes in the book you can make either a pan loaf or a Dutch oven loaf from it. Most of them anyway. And they give you the option of doing a mix that's just uses store-bought yeast, or we call it commercial yeast, in the baking world. You can do a straight dough that's just with yeast, and they're really good. Or you can do it better, and you have a Levain culture that you store in the refrigerator. You refresh it once every week or 10 days, and you just pluck 100 grams of this, put it into your dough mix. All the instructions are included with each recipe in the book. This is sort of the secret sauce. All the leavening action, 99% of the leavening action comes from the standard yeast that you use, the regular yeast. But this uses the Levain as basically as a flavoring element. So for better flavor in the breads, it also gives you a little bit more acidity in the dough, and that adds keeping quality. So these loaves, especially the pan breads, will last a good 5 days after you bake them, if they're stored properly. When you use the Levain culture. If you use just yeast without the Levain, those loaves will last about 3 days. Still not too bad. So when I take the lid off, get a look here. It's all nice and bubbly. If you smell it, it has, I don't want to say cheesy because it's not that funky. It's more milky, but you can smell the fermented character of it. This is different also from my flour, water, salt, yeast first book, because it's made with all white flour, and it's equal amounts flour and water. It gets refreshed every week to 10 days. Or if you run out, like I've been baking a lot the last couple days, this is good for another 2 loaves. You can refresh it as soon as you run low. So to refresh it, it would be, I'll show you later, but you just remove all but 50 grams of what's remaining inside the bucket. Add flour, add water, then you let it sit out for a full day, then you put it back in the refrigerator. But the point of doing this method of using a Levain culture that's not specially mixed for every single dough that you would make is that it makes it easier. When you're mixing a bread dough, you can just open the refrigerator, pull your Levain container out, add it to the dough, and then put it back in the refrigerator. And if you want to make bread 2 or 3 times a week, it's a really convenient way to go about it. It's a lot less work. It's also very efficient. You're not throwing away a lot of extra flour and schmutz when you give it refresh feedings like I did in my first book. And so that's the reason for having the Levain culture. It's for flavor, it's for efficiency in terms of your ingredients, and it's for ease of use. So like I said, all these recipes for pan breads made with the Levain culture in them, they're delicious, they last longer, and I think you'll really enjoy it. All right, we're going to feed the Levain. In this, my second bread cookbook, you recall most of the recipes give the option of using 100 grams of Levain culture in your dough mix. It's not required, but it makes the bread taste a lot better, and it will also add some keeping quality. So typically, I will feed it every 7 to 10 days. That's my instruction in the book. And it uses a small amount of flour and a small amount of water. It's not wasteful. And if you bake 2 or 3 times a week, it'll all work out pretty great. For this to work, you're probably going to have a container. This is a grande mozzarella bucket that, I'm sorry, I just brought from my pizzeria, and it's been my Levain container for a long time. But if you use a 2-quart container like this, they're not very expensive, they're easy to obtain. This is probably something like what you'll have. Whether it's my Mozz bucket or your, this thing, you want to know what it weighs when it's empty, because the instructions to make this work are remove all but 50 grams of the culture from the bucket. So my empty bucket weighs 58 grams. So I want, when my scale is at 0, for this to go down to 108 grams. I know you already did the math because you're smarter than me. And I just keep a trash can, I call this a Slim Jim, right next to me and next to the scale. It just makes everything easy. And I also know visually, we actually have a picture in the book of what it looks like with 50 grams remaining. So if you're unsure, 50 grams is going to look pretty much like that. Okay, so now we have 50 grams remaining in the container. I put it on the scale, I hit 0, and I'm going to add equal amounts of flour and water. Water at a rough temperature range that's in the book. And it's just really easy, it only takes a couple minutes. And essentially you're building up a new culture from what's remained in there that will fully ferment rugose or use as a flavoring agent. And you just mix it by hand like I'm doing right here. You know, there's one thing I want to say about the Levain. I was talking about in all of these demos about how the primary leavening is just regular old yeast, and you add some of this for flavor. But I also have a section of a half dozen recipes of pure Levain breads that do not use commercial yeast, and they're based on this Levain culture also. And those are written as Dutch oven Levain breads, just like in my first bread book. And that one, it has a stage of you build a starter from the Levain culture here. But I wanted to let you know that the book also has options for pure Levain breads they're really special. I'm very, very proud of those. But anyway, no matter which way you're doing it, you're going to need to feed it and refresh it. You can see I didn't have to use a lot of flour to do it. And when what I've just mixed, you can see what it looks like. Use your hands, it's fun, it's easy, they're right there. Yeah, that's what I'm looking for. And then once it's mixed, on the lid of the container that holds the Levain, you can see I just put a fresh piece of tape and I write the date and the time that it was refreshed. And I just like the look of all of its previous refreshes in here, just because I think it's cool for my own reasons, it doesn't matter. So I put that on. I'm going to wash my hands, you don't need to see me labeling it, but it's a suggestion that you do something like that yourself, so that if you can't recall the last time you fed it, or maybe somebody you live with fed it, you don't know when it was done, it'll be right there on the container. And if it's been 11 days, you say, okay, I'll take 3 minutes and I'll feed the Levain. So that's it. This is the secret sauce for all the recipes in my cookbook. I hope you enjoy it.